Last year, I reviewed the PlayStation Now game streaming service to ask the question, was it good enough in 2020? But with so much changing in the cloud gaming space in just the last year alone, and with the little attention from Sony, now the question is the service even noteworthy here in 2021? So I'll link here to my review last year, which goes into a little bit more detail on the basics of the PlayStation Now service. But just a quick recap, PlayStation Now lets you stream from a library of over 800 games to either your PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or a Windows PC. They recommend a minimum internet speed of 5 meg, and a max resolution when streaming games is currently capped at 720. I just felt all of my fellow fidelity snobs shudder. On the console, most of the big titles have the option to download the game and play it locally. That obviously rids you of any hiccups that you may encounter from streaming the game, and also increases the quality to the game's intended resolution. To address the number one question on last year's video, if you cancel your PlayStation Now subscription, yes, you lose access to the games, even the ones you've now loaded. They require an internet connection to access, which will do a ping just before launching to check your subscription status. Y'all are just thirsty for free loopholes. Let's quickly talk about the game library. Compared to newer cloud gaming services like Stadia and Game Pass streaming, PlayStation Now definitely boasts an impressive library in terms of quantity, but that doesn't always mean quality. The welcome screen for PlayStation Now boasts all of the biggest titles, the PlayStation Now exclusives, and the nostalgic classics, but I'd estimate they make up about 30% of the 800 game library. The rest are truly there just to bulk out the collection. But each month PlayStation Now does add new titles to the library. Most recently for the month of February, we got Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Detroit Become Human, and WWE 2K Battlegrounds. But be warned, each month they do rotate games out of the service, so there's a chance you will be playing something that might not be there to finish. And on that point, I will never understand the reason for removing Spider-Man, Sony's own first-party title and poster boy for the PlayStation Now service. So jumping back into the service in 2021, once again I did some testing on the PS4 and Windows PC. Last year I described the PlayStation 4 experience as playable for casual players with noticeable input latency. This year, however, I'd have to describe it as an absolute show. Up front, I can confirm none of the parameters on my side have changed. I'm using the same internet provider, getting the same speeds, about 300 down, using the same router, the same PlayStation 4, in the exact same place, about 2 feet away from the router. Despite that, the PlayStation 4 over Wi-Fi was only getting speeds of around 14 meg, which I was able to improve slightly by manually adjusting some of the DNS settings, but still, 14 megs is above the 5 megs minimum that PlayStation Now requires. So it should be fine, right? In this case, I can actually use the word unplayable, not even in the sense that, oh, the quality was so bad that I couldn't play it. No, the PlayStation Now service itself force closed the game because of the shitty connection. At this point, it's probably worth noting that the PlayStation 5 does have improved Wi-Fi 6, so it's capable of hitting speeds 15 times faster than the Wi-Fi 4 standards used in the PlayStation 4. I just don't have access to one to test that. So Wi-Fi was a no-go for whatever reason, increased usage during a global pandemic, degradation of the service, who knows. So I connected an Ethernet cable to continue my testing. This bafflingly still only increased the download speed registered on the PlayStation 4 to 30 megs, but still it was enough to at least stop the game from forced closing. And this time around, my faults remain pretty much consistent with last year. Okay for casual players, still a noticeable level of input latency, and even on a decent TV, that 720 resolution is still pretty apparent. I think this speaks loudest to one of my biggest concerns for the service. In the space of a year where other competitors have worked tirelessly to get their game streaming platforms on mobile devices, Chromebooks, streaming through the browser, Sony has remained complacent in using 6-year-old tech and simply rotating titles in and out. So jumping over to the Windows app, this time I've foregone the Wi-Fi on the laptop experiment and gone straight to the PC with an Ethernet connection. Last year, my final thoughts on the Windows app were that, again, it was playable, but the input latency was worse than on the console, potentially due to optimization issues stemming from running on an operating system that wasn't its own. But trying it for the first time on a wired connection really did change my mind about the performance. Input latency was worlds better from my testing last year, and in several hours of gameplay, I'm pressed to remember a single drop in performance. Another thing I noticed is that the time to load a game on the Windows app seemed to be much faster than on the console, even though in theory they should be loaded and streamed from the same place. This time, I would be happy to put PlayStation Now up there in terms of performance next to the likes of Stadia and GeForce Now. But performance and quality are two different things, and on a 4K PC monitor, once again, that 720p streaming resolution is an immediate eyesore. So with that being said, what's next for PlayStation Now? I truly believe right now Sony is in a holding pattern with the service, while its replacement is in development. In a market where Sony and Microsoft have been competing endlessly, I don't see a world where Sony would be happy for Microsoft to take the biggest slice of the increasingly lucrative cloud gaming pie. In the past year alone, we've seen bits and pieces of patents from Sony mentioning cloud gaming. Some seem to specifically target backwards compatibility. Others talk about instant demos, which leverage the PlayStation Now streaming tech. All of this leads me to hope that behind the scenes, Sony is working on something big that just wasn't ready to go live alongside the launch of the PlayStation 5. So, my final thoughts of PlayStation Now in 2021. The library of games remains impressive, and the games added each month keep the service fresh and a good value for money compared to some of its competitors. They do, however, need to stop shooting themselves in the foot by removing titles, especially when those titles are first-party Game of the Year winners. Like all cloud gaming services, the user experience remains reliant on the player's own internet connection speed. I don't know what happened between last year and this year, but the bar seems to have been raised from the 5 meg minimum they advertise to, having pretty decent speeds and a hardwired connection as a must. If you're currently bored in lockdown and looking to try some PlayStation exclusives or revisit some nostalgic classics, then yep, the service is probably worth looking into. Right now, I just don't think we've seen it in its final form, and personally, I'll be watching closely as I think 2021 is the year we might finally see some movement in this space from Sony. But that's it for me. If you use PlayStation Now, if you've used it in the past or you've used it recently, let me know your thoughts on the service in the comments down below. The performance, the game library, the price, good and bad, let me know. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it somewhat helpful, a like rating would be appreciated. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.